Have you ever wondered what happens when you finally stop trying? When you stop explaining, stop arguing, stop pleading, and instead you vanish? No message, no warning, no goodbye, just silence. Ghosting isn't cowardice, it isn't immaturity. Nope. It's power. Because when you step back completely, you create a void, and human beings fear the void more than rejection. Rejection gives closure, but silence leaves questions, and those questions are where karma begins its slow and steady work. This is the story of a man who gave his best to a woman who gave him nothing but excuses. He thought his patience, his effort, his persistence would eventually open her eyes. But instead, the more he gave, the less she respected him. She grew comfortable, careless, certain that no matter how she treated him, he would always be there. Until one day he chose differently. He chose silence. He chose to ghost her, not from hate, not from weakness, but from strength. And the moment he did, the entire balance of power shifted, because in the silence, she no longer had his presence to dismiss. She no longer had his words to push away. All she had left was herself and the echo of her own choices. The same attention she once ignored now became a ghost haunting her mind. The same man she thought would always be there suddenly became an absence she couldn't escape. This is how karma works. It doesn't always strike through lightning or punishment. It often works through silence, through loss, through the weight of what can never return. Ghosting, when done with purpose, is not about running away. It's about standing so firmly in your self-respect that you refuse to give your energy where it's not valued. It's about letting the other person live with the consequences of their own actions. Because when you disappear, you don't just take yourself away. You take away the comfort, the certainty, the safety they once took for granted. And in that emptiness, karma does the rest. If you're ready to let silence speak louder than words, if you're ready to ghost and watch karma work, hit that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I choose silence over chaos. Now, let's begin. Number 1. The power of disappearing. There is a power in disappearing that most people will never understand. When you vanish, no texts, no calls, no explanations, you strike at the core of human psychology. Because the mind craves certainty, it craves answers. Rejection, as painful as it is, provides closure. But when you disappear, you leave a question mark where there should have been a period, and that question mark keeps spinning in their mind long after you've gone. At first, she may feel relief. She may even convince herself she doesn't care, but slowly that relief fades into curiosity. Why hasn't he reached out? Where did he go? Did he really move on that quickly? Curiosity turns into doubt, and doubt turns into regret. That's the chain reaction of silence. Your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. The Stoics knew this truth well. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Disappearing is your reaction. It's the ultimate refusal to play the game. Instead of begging for answers, you become the one who forces her to seek them. And in dark psychology, this move is devastating, because the person who once thought they had control now finds themselves powerless. Their mind becomes their own worst enemy, replaying the past, searching for meaning in the silence you left behind. But disappearing isn't just about her, it's about you. It's about reclaiming your energy, your dignity, your time. By walking away, you declare, "I don't need closure, I don't need validation, and I don't need to explain myself to someone who never valued me." That is the ultimate act of self-respect. And that is why ghosting, when done with purpose, is not weakness, it's power. If you're ready to stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve your voice, if you're ready to embrace the power of disappearing, hit that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. My absence is my message. Number 2. Silence as a punishment. Words can be argued with, texts can be ignored, calls can be declined. But silence? Silence cannot be fought. It lingers. It creeps into the quiet moments of the night when the phone doesn't buzz, when the name they expect to see never appears. Silence is punishment, not because you intended it to be cruel, but because the human mind cannot escape it. When you go silent, you force her to face herself without the distraction of your attention. Your absence becomes a mirror, reflecting her own actions back at her. Every time she checks her phone and sees nothing, she feels the sting. Every time she scrolls through memories, wondering why you haven't returned, the silence whispers, "This is what your choices cost you." The Stoics understood that sometimes restraint speaks louder than reaction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy," and silence is the embodiment of that wisdom. Instead of lashing out, instead of chasing, you hold your tongue. You withdraw your energy. You let the void do what anger never could, force accountability. In dark psychology, silence works because the human brain craves feedback. When we say something, we expect a response. When we act, we want a reaction. By denying her that reaction, you break the cycle. She is left to wrestle with her own thoughts, replaying every word, every moment, every decision. Your silence becomes the loudest answer she'll ever receive. But here's the deeper truth. Silence isn't about revenge. It's about protection. You are no longer pouring yourself into someone who didn't value you. You are no longer bleeding energy into a void. Instead, you let her sit in her own emptiness. That is the power of silence. It's not what you say, it's what you refuse to say that cuts the deepest. If you're ready to stop wasting words on people who don't listen, if you're ready to let silence speak for you, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. Silence is my revenge. Number 3, shifting the control. Control is rarely taken. It's usually surrendered. When you were chasing, explaining, begging, you were handing her all the control. She decided when to respond, when to give attention, when to acknowledge you. But the moment you ghost, the entire game flips. No longer is she in charge of your emotions. No longer does she hold the power of when and how you'll reach out. You've taken control back in the simplest way possible, by doing nothing. Ghosting is disruptive because it interrupts the script she expected you to follow. She thought you'd argue. She thought you'd fight for her. She thought you'd be predictable. But instead, you went silent. And now she's left scrambling to figure out what happened. That uncertainty is where the power lies, because the person who has to wonder is always the one who feels less secure. The Stoics would call this self-mastery. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." And nothing is braver than refusing to be controlled by someone else's approval. By ghosting, you prove that her actions no longer dictate your responses. You've broken the chain. That freedom is control, not over her, but over yourself. And ironically, it is that very freedom that unsettles her most. From the perspective of dark psychology, this is devastating. Because when the person who once chased suddenly stops, the brain interprets it as rejection, and rejection is one of the most powerful triggers of obsession. She may not admit it, she may not show it, but she will feel it. Because she's no longer the one pulling the strings, you are. But remember, this isn't about playing games. It's not about manipulation. It's about choosing yourself. You're not shifting control just to get her back. You're shifting control so you never lose yourself again. If you're done letting others dictate your worth, if you're ready to reclaim control through silence, hit that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I am in control of myself. Number 4. The karma of loss. Karma doesn't always strike with thunder. It doesn't always come as instant punishment. Sometimes karma is quiet. Sometimes karma is slow. And sometimes karma looks like this. You walking away, disappearing into silence, and leaving her to wrestle with the very choices that pushed you there. That is the karma of loss. At first, she may laugh. She may tell herself she's fine without you. She may even post online, trying to show the world how unbothered she is. But behind closed doors, reality sets in, because human nature is wired to value what is no longer within reach. The things she once overlooked, your presence, your loyalty, your consistency, now become memories she replays with a different lens. She realizes too late that those things weren't ordinary. They were rare. That realization is karma unfolding. The Stoics would say this is simply cause and effect. Epictetus taught that every action has its consequence, whether we see it immediately or not. She may have treated you like an option, but your silence reminds her of the cost of her decisions. This is not revenge. It's justice. Not because you sought to hurt her, but because you chose to stop hurting yourself. And when you stepped back, life gave her the lesson she created for herself. Dark psychology explains this even further. People experience loss aversion. The pain of losing something is psychologically twice as powerful as the joy of gaining something new, which means that while she may try to replace you, that replacement will never erase the shadow of what she lost. That's karma, and it doesn't require your effort, it only requires your absence. But here's the key. You don't wait for karma to punish her. You don't sit around hoping she regrets it, because by then, you've already moved on. Karma is not your weapon to wield. Karma is the natural order, the balance that happens when you refuse to give your energy where it's not valued. If you're ready to stop chasing justice and let karma do its work, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. Her loss is my justice. Number 5. The freedom of walking away. There is a freedom that only comes when you walk away. At first, it feels heavy. You wonder if disappearing was the right choice, if maybe you should have explained more, fought harder, tried longer. But over time, that weight lifts. Because walking away means you finally cut the chains that kept you tied to someone who didn't value you. And in that freedom, you begin to breathe again. Most men stay trapped because they're afraid of letting go. They cling to the hope that if they just wait a little longer, things will change. But the Stoics would call this foolishness. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Walking away is the ultimate act of Stoic control. You admit you cannot control her choices, her feelings, her loyalty, but you can control yourself. You can choose peace over chaos, dignity over desperation, silence over begging. And here's the irony. Your freedom becomes her prison. While you release the bond, she begins to feel its absence. While you heal, she begins to wonder. Dark psychology shows us that nothing is more unsettling than watching someone you thought needed you suddenly thrive without you. It plants doubt. It plants regret. It plants the haunting thought, maybe I was the one who lost more. But here's the truth. Walking away isn't about her at all. It's about you. It's about proving to yourself that you don't need to cling to what's broken. It's about realizing that sometimes silence is louder than explanation, and distance is more powerful than closeness. When you walk away, you don't just remove yourself from her life. You reclaim yourself in yours. That is real freedom. If you're done being chained to what no longer serves you, if you're ready to embrace the freedom of walking away, hit that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. Walking away sets me free. Number 6. The psychological spiral of regret. Regret is not a sudden strike. It's a slow, creeping storm. At first, she may feel nothing when you ghost her. She may even convince herself she's fine, telling friends she doesn't care, acting as if your absence means nothing. But the mind has a way of betraying its own defenses. Over time, little reminders begin to slip through the cracks. A place you once went together, a song she once connected to you, a habit she picked up from your presence. And suddenly, she feels the sting. This is the psychological spiral of regret. Dark psychology explains it as the loop of unfinished business. The brain hates unanswered questions, and when you ghost, you create a void that her mind can't stop trying to fill. Why did he disappear? Why hasn't he come back? What if he's already moved on? Did I lose something irreplaceable? These thoughts grow louder in the silence you leave behind. The Stoics would see this as justice, not because you inflicted pain, but because her own choices created it. Epictetus said, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself can overpower my will." She cannot control you now, and that loss of control is what sparks the regret. Because people crave what they can no longer command. Regret spirals because it grows in darkness. With no closure, her imagination runs wild. And the irony is this: you don't have to say a single word to make it happen. You don't chase, you don't argue, you don't explain. Your silence fuels the spiral. And with every passing day, she begins to see what she took for granted, what she dismissed, what she can never reclaim. But the spiral isn't your concern. You don't ghost her so she regrets you. You ghost her so you can move on. The regret is simply the echo of karma at work. If you're ready to stop feeding someone who doesn't value you, if you're ready to let regret spiral on its own, hit that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. Her regret is her lesson. Number 7. Attraction through absence. Absence creates desire. It always has, and it always will. When you're constantly present, constantly available, constantly pouring energy into someone, they begin to take it for granted. But when you remove yourself completely, when your voice, your presence, your energy vanishes, the human mind reacts in one inevitable way. It begins to crave what it can no longer touch. This is the paradox of attraction. Dark psychology calls it the scarcity principle. The less something is available, the more valuable it becomes. When you ghost, you transform yourself from abundance into rarity. Suddenly, she no longer has the comfort of knowing you'll respond, no longer has the certainty of your presence, and in that absence, desire awakens. Why don't I have his attention anymore? Why isn't he reaching out? Who has it now instead of me? These thoughts fuel the fire of attraction, not because you're chasing her, but because you're not. The Stoics would frame this as discipline. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Your trial was heartbreak. Your polishing came through silence. By mastering yourself enough to withdraw, you reveal that your value was never in how much you gave. It was in how much you withheld until it was truly earned. Absence is not a weakness. It's not running away. It's strategy. Because absence doesn't just starve her of attention, it forces her to feed on memories, and memories always look sweeter when they can't be repeated. That is why attraction through absence is so powerful. She may not admit it, she may try to suppress it, but deep down she will feel it. Because the one thing she thought was guaranteed is now gone, and nothing creates attraction like the fear of loss. If you're done chasing and ready to let your absence create desire, hit that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. My absence fuels attraction. Number 8. Karma in her reflection. Karma doesn't just show up in the world around her, it shows up in the mirror, because sooner or later she has to sit with herself. No texts from you, no comfort from you, No reassurance that you're still there waiting, just her and her reflection. And in that silence, she begins to replay everything she said, everything she did, every moment she dismissed you. That's when the weight of karma hits hardest, when she realizes she is staring at the person who created her own loss. This is the cruel but fair truth of life. People often blame others for their pain, but when you ghost, there's no one else to point to. She can't say you argued. She can't say you begged. She can't say you tried to win her back. Nope. All she has is your absence and the choices that drove you to it. That is karma, the unavoidable consequence of actions meeting silence. The Stoics would see this as natural justice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." Her life is now shaped by the thoughts she cannot silence, the thoughts of what she lost. And every time she sees her reflection, every time she feels the emptiness where you once were, the reality settles deeper. She created this. From a dark psychology perspective, this is devastating, because the mind, when denied external answers, turns inward. And when it turns inward, it magnifies guilt, regret, and longing. That's why ghosting is so powerful. It forces her to become her own judge, jury, and executioner. Her reflection becomes the punishment. But here's where you win. You are no longer part of her storm. You've stepped out of it. She is left with her own reflection, her own actions, her own karma. And you walk free. If you're ready to let karma speak louder than words, if you're ready to let her reflection teach the lesson, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. Her karma is her reflection. Number 9. Your evolution in silence. Silence isn't empty. It's where transformation begins. When you ghost, the point isn't just to leave her wondering. The point is to give yourself space to evolve. While she's trapped in memories, you're creating new ones. While she's replaying the past, you're building a future. This is where the real power of ghosting lies, not in what it does to her, but in what it allows you to do for yourself. The Stoics believed adversity was the greatest teacher. Epictetus said, "Difficulties show a man to himself." Ghosting is not just about her. It's about you confronting your own difficulty, your own emptiness, and choosing to fill it with growth instead of weakness. This silence is your training ground. Every day you invest in your mind, your body, your purpose, you rise higher above the man who once clung to someone who didn't value him. From a dark psychology perspective, this evolution is devastating for her, because while she expects you to crumble, you're actually thriving. While she thinks you'll wait, you're already moving on. And when she finally looks back, she doesn't just see silence. She sees a new man standing where the old one used to be, stronger, sharper, unreachable. That is the kind of transformation that haunts someone far longer than words ever could. But here's the truth. You don't evolve to spite her. You evolve to free yourself. Ghosting gives you the gift of time and energy, and what you do with it defines the man you become. Use it wisely, and you'll discover that her absence wasn't a loss. It was the space you needed to grow into your highest self. If you're ready to stop shrinking for someone else, if you're ready to evolve in the silence, hit that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. My silence builds my evolution. Number 10. The final balance of karma. In the end, karma always finds balance. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to force it. You don't even have to think about it. The act of walking away, of ghosting with dignity, sets the scale in motion. Because while you move forward, she remains stuck in the echoes of her choices. That is the final balance, your peace against her regret. At first, it might not look like justice. You may not see her hurting. You may not hear her admit she misses you. But karma isn't about what you see, it's about what is. Behind closed doors, in the quiet of her thoughts, she feels it. And the more you thrive without her, the heavier that weight becomes. That's how the universe balances the equation. The Stoics would tell you not to wait for it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. And that's what ghosting ultimately is. Not revenge, but release. You didn't scream, you didn't beg, you didn't try to wound her. You simply walked away, and by doing so, you let life teach her what words never could. Dark psychology explains this as the collapse of expectation. She expected you to always be there. She expected you to need her. She expected you to crumble without her. But when the opposite happened, when you disappeared, when you grew, when you reclaimed your power, her expectations shattered. And nothing cuts deeper than realizing the person you once underestimated no longer needs you at all. That's the final balance of karma. Her regret, your freedom. Her questions, your answers. Her emptiness, your evolution. And once you reach this point, you realize the truth. It was never about her missing you. It was about you never needing her again. That is victory. That is balance. That is karma fulfilled. If you're ready to stop waiting for justice and start living in freedom, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. My freedom is the final karma. At the end of the day, ghosting is not about revenge. It's not about games. And it's not about making her suffer. It's about choosing yourself. It's about silence over chaos, discipline over desperation, and peace over pain. Because when you ghost, you don't just disappear from her life. You reappear in your own. You reclaim your energy, your control, and your freedom. Through silence, you forced accountability. Through detachment, you shifted the power. Through absence, you awakened attraction. And through walking away, you gave karma room to do its work. While she wrestles with regret, you evolve. While she faces her reflection, you thrive. While she waits for closure, you create a new identity. That is the balance. That is the justice. That is the final victory. Remember this, karma doesn't need your help. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to make her see. Because the truth is, the moment you stop chasing, the moment you let go, the scales begin to shift on their own. And by the time she finally realizes what she lost, you'll be too far gone to care. That's the real power. That's the true freedom. That's how karma works. If you're ready to embrace that freedom, if you're ready to master the silence and let karma do the rest, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I choose peace, I choose silence, I choose me.